My name is Jeff Rosiak. I work with Gamble Design Collaborative. We are the planners for the Old Charlotte Pike PUD that we're going to development plan that we're going to present to you all tonight. This is a required City of Franklin meeting, so it is being recorded and will be available on the city's website later if anybody wants to double back and see it later. I'm going to start my screen share and we'll get started. Cliff, I think I'll kind of turn it over to you.
Okay, yeah, well, I think I know most people, but Cliff Smith with CPS Land. We're the developers of the property, and just real briefly, I think we've been working on this for quite some time. We started off kind of following the Envision Franklin plan, and as it was laid out, which also included kind of a north-south collector road that did not permit driveway access, which kind of drove us into a more West Haven type plan. And that created some concerns. And so we've been listening, and we've been working with the city of Franklin and the adjacent landowners to really not just this property, but the whole West Harpeth area to kind of come up with, you never reach consensus, but to kind of reach a different solution. And that's what Jeff's going to show you here in a second, kind of where we landed after a pretty lengthy planning process that I know a number of you guys have been a part of. So Jeff, if you want to take it from there.
Yeah, sure. And I'll briefly outline that process. I know a lot of you have been involved in it, so I'll go through it quickly. But as probably everyone knows, this is the site that we are talking about north of the existing sharp bend in Old Charlotte Pike, and north of the short property, north of Highway 96 and west of Mac Hatcher. As Cliff mentioned, we first submitted this project a year ago, and that was submittal. So we've been working on it for some time before that. And what we realized when we submitted this plan previously is that some of the existing planning and studying of this area that had been done on behalf by the City of Franklin and City of Franklin staff really anticipated a pretty significant amount of development in this area. And so we, as a result of that initial submittal and some heartburn that it caused, we kind of took a step back and looked at this entire area. And thanks to many of you that are on the phone have really talked through the potential future development of this whole West Basin. And so the area outlined in red is about 2,200 acres. When the City of Franklin staff studied this area, they studied it based on an assumed density of about 2.5 dwelling units per acre, just to give them a baseline for planning infrastructure, which translates to about 5,400 homes. As a part of and as a result of those studies, the infrastructure plans for this area included a thoroughfare plan with a network of collector roads that kind of crisscross the basin, and sewer that also serves the entire basin based on that much larger density. But as we studied the area and as we began to meet with a lot of the neighbors, what we heard pretty universally was that those densities may have been pretty aggressive compared to what folks were actually thinking would happen on their properties. And so what you see here is kind of a conglomeration of those conversations with the landowners in this area and what they anticipate the future development of their land might look like. And you can see that it starts to create an area of a little bit more density in and closer to Mac Hatcher, closer to the City of Franklin, and transitions to more rural 1 to 10 acres, 1 to 5 acres across the study area in a way that makes some sense. I'm just letting someone in the meeting. I may have to do that periodically, so bear with me. The property that we're studying or discussing tonight is labeled Parcel B, and is 58 and some change acre parcel, and as we'll show you tonight, is being proposed at a 1-to-1 density. Sorry, 1 dwelling unit per acre density. So my Zoom is lagging a bit. So the plan that we have put together for this property, in those of you that may remember the previous plan, I think you'll see that this is a much simpler plan with a simpler street network. It's more rural in its pattern of development with larger lots, obviously meant far fewer lots. The previous plan proposed 157 homes at almost 2.7 dwelling units per acre. This plan proposes 58 total homes at 1 dwelling unit per acre. You'll see that the plan is organized around a central open space. This would be our primary pedestrian space, our primary amenity area, with potentially a plaza area and a network of trails that crisscross through the open space, connecting to our sidewalk and street network surrounding it. The street network really just boils down to 2 primary streets that make connections to the existing bend at Old Charlotte Pike and through to the east to the future development of the Shore property. We're currently proposing that the alignment of Old Charlotte Pike actually stubs out into a cul-de-sac, and the existing road continues through as a trail, pedestrian trail only, and that we would tie into that cul-de-sac with an emergency connection from the Old Charlotte Pike subdivision. And so really the Old Charlotte Pike would kind of stop here, and this would tie into the other piece of Old Charlotte Pike, the north-south piece of Old Charlotte Pike that would continue through the development. This plan preserves 50% open space, and again, a large chunk of that is in the central open space, and a lot of that is also in our buffers to the adjacent properties. On the western property line, we're showing a minimum of 125 feet between property line from lot lines to the exterior property line. With the 30-foot setback, that ends up being over 150 feet between property lines and homes. Along the northern property line and eastern property line, that minimum setback is 45 feet. And again, with the 30-foot building setback, that ends up being a minimum of 75 feet between the property line and homes. We do this at lot 1 here, take advantage of a little valley and some existing trees that create additional screening. This gets a little bit closer to the stream and this valley, but is still 50 feet from the property line. This is all organized around the central open space and primary amenity with the 2 streets that surround, and is a much simpler plan. We do have a minimum of 580 feet plus or minus between any existing homes here to the east to the Gentry home. To the north, it's about 900 feet to any homes to Wynn and Montgomery's home. And here to the historic Hamilton Brown House, about 650 feet between any homes and the historic home. So So really substantial land buffers between any existing homes in the area. Hold on, admitting another. Those buffers are kind of illustrated here. So again, this is the historic home. I think I said 650, 640 feet between new homes and the historic homes. On the northern and eastern buffers, you'll see this 45-foot minimum buffer to the property line. And then there's a minimum of another 30 feet to the residences. And along the western buffer, that's 125 feet with another 30 feet to the residences. So this is some of the proposed architecture and kind of the representation of the streetscape and spacing between homes. And this is sort of an outline of where we are in the process. I know that we last spoke to many of you in this group a year ago, but we're really still at step one. We're about to submit our initial submittal to the city of Franklin next week. With, if we stay on track, resubmittal in July and planning commission in July. So that is a brief update of how the plan has changed over the last year. And really tonight we're here to answer questions, and we'll turn it over to some questions here in 1 minute. I did, in advance of the meeting, get a few questions from one of our neighbors. So maybe I'll just address those questions first, and it may address some other folks' questions as well. Scott Gentry sent an email, and thank you, Scott, for sending it, with 4 questions. The first question was, we're very concerned with stormwater. We already have major flooding due to West Haven releasing water into the creek, and this development will add to the problem. Note that the area of existing pump station and proposed road / bridge for this development is in the floodplain already. So, hang on, admitting folks into the meeting again. So there is existing floodplain that comes into the property that kind of, I've drawn it a little too deep, is kind of shaped like that. We do anticipate manipulating the floodplain some and reestablishing floodplain boundaries. Any manipulation of the floodplain is required at a 1.5 to 1 ratio. So we'd actually be improving the potential flood storage on site, and stormwater in general is one of the most highly scrutinized elements of any plan submittal to the city of Franklin. So we'd have to meet or exceed the city of Franklin's standards. We cannot negatively impact the offsite flows, overland flows to the adjacent properties. So in every case, flood and stormwater in general, we would be improving the flooding potential that is existing today. And I should mention some of the folks that are on the line. Matt Anderson, who's on our engineering team, is on the line to get into that more specifically if we need to. But
hey Jeff, this is Scott Gentry.
Yeah.
I guess the worry I have, there's numerous times that turn in O'Charlotte, the hairpin turn there is completely underwater, plus a lot more. So I don't know what some map showed. I'll just tell you what's real life. So if that road and the new bridge shown in this location, the elevations would have to be raised to get where you're not driving through floodwaters to get in and out.
Yeah, so the floodplain maps today show something a little bit different than that, but I understand you have real world experience that you're concerned about there. So, sorry, was that an additional comment?
I heard somebody say something, I'm not sure what.
Um,
If some of the people in the call probably remember, part of the initial reason for Old Charlotte having an entrance into McHatcher Extension, which originally was not supposed to happen, was all based on this exclusively, because this road's underwater several times and it would landlock them.
Yeah, so I guess all I can say at the moment is we're at initial submittal of the development plan. We'll certainly be studying these elevations more as we continue through the development plan and eventually into the site plan process. And I mean, I hear your concern, so we'll dig into that more and try to better understand the flood situation there. I mean, we don't intend to create a landlocked or dangerous situation either. So I'll make a note of that and we'll study it a little bit more as we continue through the process.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Sure. Matt, I don't know, did you have any additional comment on that, or?
No, we'll definitely take a look at it a little bit more deeper as well. And see what the elevation of that road is in comparison to the floodplain that's out there. But if we know going in that there is a flooding concern, you know, we'll see what we can do to mitigate that going forward.
I've waited it more than once getting people out of cars, so.
We
It
trust,
exists, no matter what a map says.
we trust you. I believe
Yep.
it.
Yeah, that's good to know. So thank you for letting us know what's going on out there.
So Scott's second question was, while we're happy with the reduction in homes from the original plans, it now appears that the connection to the development on the northern section of the short property, with the connection to the development on the northern section of the North Shore property, we are back to where we were, if not exceeding the original count. Scott, maybe clarify your question. I think you're talking about what's proposed on the short property, the next property over.
Yes, yes, where you're showing connecting.
Okay. That plan is at an Envision Franklin level. They haven't really studied their densities. I mean, of course they've begun to study it and begun to plan it, but they're at an even higher level than we are. They're not even at development plan yet.
Right.
So, I can't really answer questions about the densities over there. Obviously, stay tuned. I think you're within the notification of that property, so they'll be continuing through their process.
Right. I just wanted to bring it to the forefront. And that's mostly all related to just traffic.
Understood. I guess I would just say, on the plan that we are presenting tonight, on the property that we're presenting tonight, we've reduced from 157 previously to 58 today. So a reduction of 99 homes, almost 2/3.
In the right direction.
Well, and a lot of that is in response to the conversations that we've had with you all over the last year. And so, we certainly.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we certainly feel like we're listening. I hope you all feel like we're listening too. So. All right, so the third question was, in relation to the number of homes and traffic, we're concerned with the new road and bridge entering Old Charlotte Pike at the point of the Hamilton Branch Road intersection. This is the east entrance to Gentry Farms, as well as several existing homes. I think you're talking about right here, right?
Yes. Yes.
I guess, I would repeat that we're at the development plan level and at a high level. We don't anticipate or don't intend to directly impact your entrance into the existing homes. Obviously, there will be some construction that will have some impact, but our intent is to, and the way the property lines work in here, let me clear my drawing out. You can see that we're kind of anticipating swinging the street away a little bit from the existing alignment of Old Charlotte Pike as we approach the stream and the bridge to make that connection more at a 90 degrees and to address kind of the way some of the property lines work in here. So so hopefully we're pulling a little bit away from the existing alignment and in a way that improves your access. I think it'll be a more 90-degree kind of a connection, and if we continue down the road of kind of cul-de-sac for Old Charlotte Pike here, I think that you'll find that a less complicated, a little bit simpler connection of those driveways to the street for a couple of reasons.
Just keep me in the loop, please. That's all I'm asking.
Yes, of course, of course. Okay, so your last comment in this email was when we first started discussions with the developer, we were told that we would have a buffer much like the buffer given Old Charlotte Pike, and this no longer seems to be in the plan. And I tried to address that in my brief presentation, but I'll just kind of reiterate a little more specifically. We're showing at least and get some of the stuff out of the way here. At least 125 feet between the rear of property lines and your property line, and that's here. It's more like 145 feet down here at lot 3, and with the setback to the homes, that's over 150 feet. 150 feet is the buffer, the scenic corridor overlay buffer along Old Charlotte Pike. So we are still providing a similar buffer to that along here, with the exception of at lot 1, where we're kind of down in this valley and hidden in the trees.
Yeah, well, it's not really hidden in the trees. If you come sit on my front porch, you'll see that.
Well,
And that's probably the one that gave me the most heartache. Let me ask this, and it may be way too early, but on all of these lots, I realize with the rear setbacks, that pushes the house away. However, are they going to allow, i.e. sheds, barns, whatever that most people like to build on the back of their lot? Those will be on us. And for instance, the northern section of your development, we had 2 family members getting ready to build up there, but that's all stopped until this is settled. So that would be, it's a lot closer than what we first saw.
yes,
And I realize it's geometry, and you got to get as much as you can in there. I get it. It's just I know that Old Charlotte has some kind of mandatory couple 100 feet or so buffer. I'm just asking.
That's 150 feet. That's right. The standards do allow some secondary structures and things like that in the setbacks, but we'd be willing to have a conversation. This is a development plan where we can establish some of our own standards.
That's my worry, because I know what happens with most people that build a shed in the back. Then the stuff they don't want to see, guess what? It's on the backside of that shed, which is what all I see.
Sure. Sure, I understand. Yeah, we'd be willing to continue that conversation about maybe limiting some of those secondary structures in the setback.
That and lot 1 is probably the one that gives me the biggest heartburn.
Okay.
Okay, I'll get off my stump now. Thank you.
Understood. We appreciate your comments. Thank you for sending this email and clarifying some of those tonight. Any other questions?
Jeff, there's no one here at City Hall. I just want to make that announcement.
Okay, thank you, Drake. By the way, I know that some of you all may have gotten double notice and one notice that said it was in person and one said that it was at City Hall. So Drake is at City Hall, just in case anybody showed up there, just to make sure that everyone could be heard, but it sounds like nobody is.
Hey, Jeff, John Montgomery here.
Hi, John.
Couple of questions. Assume neighborhood will be curb and gutter, is that right?
Yeah, we'd be using City of Franklin standard streets.
Okay. So a little bit kind of piggybacking what Scott was talking about, those northern lots. I mean, from y'all's perspective, those are premium lots, and probably from our perspective, they are premium too. I mean, they're important to us just like they are to you guys. So if you're in the back of those houses, you know, they're getting to look at a bunch of open space behind them. And then if you're in our houses, we're getting to look at the back of those. So I guess my question would be, you know, my desire would be to increase that buffer as much as you could reasonably. But foregoing that, maybe just talking about some evergreen type landscaping behind them. Some of this kind of goes into the next sections, but just kind of something to consider there. And then maybe lastly to that is we've all kind of, I don't know who the builder group is, and not that it necessarily matters at all, but we all know that the front of homes can change, but oftentimes the rear of those homes remain the same. So just maybe from an architectural review standpoint, like maybe some limitation of number of floor plans where the rear elevations are the same. I mean, I've been in some nice neighborhoods where the same plan has been next door to itself 5-6 times, where the front you would never know it, but the back are identical. So maybe those would be my 3 things. Other than that, I would echo or just state super appreciative of the approach you guys have taken, and along with the city too, just with the overall group, decreasing the overall density, which therefore changed the thoroughfares, which were a big concern of ours. And then with that, the septic requirements and all that going forward. So I know the process has taken a while, but I certainly appreciate the fruits of the labor.
Well, I really appreciate that comment, and yeah, I've noted your comments here as well. What other questions?
I do have a question. This is Dorinda Carlisle Smith. What is the timeline on the development?
Well, we are at initial submittal next week. We would be at Planning Commission in late July, and potentially could be through our 3 BOMA readings over the next 2 to 3 months from July. So that would be in October. Then we'd be into the site plan process, which in and of itself takes a few months. So I don't, we wouldn't have approved site plans until early 2021, which I guess would be potentially when the developer could request grading permits. Sorry, 2022, which would be when the developer could potentially request grading permits. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming out and for asking some questions and voicing some concerns. We appreciate that you all have been a part of this ongoing process for the last year, 18 months, and we appreciate y'all's patience as we've kind of figured this out and studied the larger area as well. and many of you have been directly involved in that. So thanks for that as well. We, as I mentioned, we'll be submitting next week. Our next public meeting, again, if we stay on track, we had our pre-application meeting with staff today, and so there's some concern that we may be able to stay on track, but if we stay on track, that planning commission meeting would be late July. And you'll get notification of that if we stay on track.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, thanks,
Yes.
everybody, appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.